In the last video I got as far as trying to play a cassette in this RCA Victor CP-1 vintage cassette player recorder, and you probably noticed that the sound was fairly horrible. I'll just give you a quick demonstration. So it's full volume and it's not very loud, very badly distorted. And the tone control doesn't have a lot of effect. Now, I know what this is. The output valve, if you recall, that's the audio output valve, was very low emission, and it's clear that it is distorting and clipping very badly. So what I'll do is I'll try another tube in there. But before I do that, I'll just put the tube back into the tube tester and just show you what I mean by low emission, and also show you the difference between that tube and the one that I intend to try as a replacement, and then we'll listen to it again and see if it improves the sound quality. So here we are back at the tube tester. I've got the original tube installed. All the controls are of course in the right positions. We'll just adjust the line. The line voltage changes over time, so that needs adjusting each time we use the tester. That's now correct. So if you recall, in the video when we first tested the valves, I was getting about 1.5 divisions on the meter, hardly moving at all. Since then I've had it in the tube rejuvenator for 24 hours, and it did improve things a little bit, but not very much, and it's been running the cassette recorder for a good 5 or 6 hours, and it still hasn't really improved much. If I do a test, you can see we're now up to nearly 4 divisions, which is double the emissions that we had, but this particular tube should give us about 3,700 on the bottom scale, and we're getting probably nearer to about 600, so it's way down what it should be, and it does mean that effectively the gain is too low for it to give us a sensible output. So I've found a replacement, but this is a 6v6, and the maximum effective gain, so to speak, that we can get out of it is specified as 3,700, and it's not really enough for the circuit that it's running in. So I've got a similar tube. This is a slightly different version of it. It's got, in theory, a slightly higher gain. So we'll give it a test. All the pinouts are the same, the voltages for the heater are the same, but it should just give us a much a higher gain. I did try another 6v6 in the cassette recorder, and it did improve things, but it still wasn't right. It was still distorting, so I decided to move to this type. So we'll give it a quick test, and as you can see, the gain is much higher. In fact, we're up near 6,000, and that's getting on for double what the best we could expect out of the other tube type would be. So I'll try this in the cassette recorder. We'll have a listen and see what you think. Does it improve the sound quality, and is it worth the expense of replacing the tube? Okay, so that's just up to about half volume, so you can see the output is much higher. It's probably hard to fully appreciate it on the recording because I'm just recording through the speaker on the unit, but the distortion is much less, and overall it really seems to have improved the quality of the recording. I'll just move it on to another section where there's some voice.
And people did and people didn't, but now you can't get it for $200, 2 versions, right? So that's the way it goes.
And as you can hear, the sound is much clearer, so I think on balance it would be advisable to replace the tube. It's up to the owner. Does work with the old tube, but as I say, I doubt it'll work for much longer, and the sound quality with this tube is extremely poor. Okay, so the machine is nearly finished. I've got a few small tasks to complete. I need to refit this cover. I've got to repair this button first. The machine does need running for a while. It's still a bit sticky in places, but it's not that surprising for a machine that hasn't been run for best part of 50 years. But it is now working. The sound is now fairly clear, and I can finish off the repair and send it back to the owner.
You can't get it for $200, two versions, right? So that's the way it goes.